Weekend at Bernie's 2 is a comedy film released in 1993 by TriStar Pictures and was the sequel to the 1989 comedy Weekend at Bernie's with Andrew McCarthy, Jonathan Silverman and Terry Kiser reprising the roles. Plot: Larry Wilson and Richard Parker are at a Manhattan morgue where they see the deceased CEO Bernie Lomax. Larry falsely claims Bernie as his uncle, so he can get some of Bernie's possessions including Bernie's credit card. At the insurance company, Larry and Richard are quizzed by the boss Arthur Hummel, the company's internal investigator, who asks the two if they have the $2 million that Bernie embezzled. They deny knowing where the money is, but their boss believes the lying and fires them. He also sends Hummel after them, giving him 2 weeks to prove the guilt. Over dinner, Larry tells Richard he found a key to a safe deposit box in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, and asks Richard if he will use the computer at work to see if the $2 million is in Bernie's account. At first Richard refuses but ultimately gives in. Meanwhile, in the Virgin Islands, a voodoo queen named Mobu is hired by mobsters to find the money Bernie stole. She sends 2 servants, Henry and Charles, to go to New York, get Bernie's body, use a voodoo ceremony to reanimate him, and bring him back to her so he can lead her to the money. Their attempt to bring Bernie back are plagued by accidents. They prepare in a bathroom at a sleazy porno theater for a voodoo ceremony, but having lost the sacrificial chicken, they use a pigeon instead. This limits Bernie's ability to walk toward the hidden money. He only moves when he hears music. At the 42nd Street Grand Central subway station, Henry and Charles soon abandon him to chase a man who stole the boombox. Later that night, Larry and Richard sneak into their office building to check Bernie's account, only to find that Bernie is the only one that can open it. They are soon arrested by the police for breaking and entering. After the release, they find Bernie, stuff him into a suitcase, bring him with them to the Virgin Islands, and put him into a small refrigerator in the hotel room. Unbeknownst to the two, Hummel is following them to recover the embezzled money. The guys successfully use Bernie to open his safety deposit box, but they only find a map. Meanwhile, Larry befriends a lovely native girl named Claudia and gives her the map. Later, he and Richard are captured by Henry and Charles, who take them to the Mobu, with one of the mobsters holding a gun to his head. She forces Richard to drink a poisonous concoction and tells them they must find the money by sundown to get the antidote. When Larry, Richard, and Claudia are reunited, they are shocked to discover that Bernie is moving and realize he is leading them towards the money. To keep him moving, they put headphones on his head. As Bernie finds a large chest underwater, Larry accidentally shoots him in the head with an underwater spear gun, destroying the headphones. They attempt to bring Bernie back to the surface, but he will not let go of the chest, which is too heavy to hoist out of the water. They end up attaching Bernie to a horse carriage with music playing. It seems to work at first, but when they go downhill, the carriage goes out of control. Eventually, the carriage ends up at Mobu's compound. Bernie hits a large tree branch and spins himself into a somersault before knocking out Mobu. The crash also causes Bernie to drop the chest on the ground and it breaks open. Larry tries to scoop up the money but is caught by Hummel and he relinquishes the money to him. With Mobu out of commission, Claudia's father, a medical doctor, says that he can cure Richard if he can get the blood of a virgin. The mobsters and Mobu are arrested, and Bernie is last seen leading Henry and Charles, who have been transformed into goats by voodoo, in a carnival parade. Larry confesses to Richard that he returned the $2 million to the insurance company, but only after learning Bernie actually stole $3 million. Larry and Richard use some of the remaining million to purchase a yacht crewed by attractive women. Cast: Andrew McCarthy as Larry Wilson, Jonathan Silverman as Richard Parker, Terry Kiser as Bernie Lomax, Troy Bear as Claudia, Barry Bostwick as Arthur Hummel, Tom Wright as Charles, Steve James as Henry, Novella Nelson as Mobu, Gary Dordon as Cartel Man, Angry Man in Street. Production. The movie was filmed in 1992 in the territory of the Virgin Islands of the United States and in New York City. The talent and star, who were mainly from the Los Angeles area, were on location when the Los Angeles riots of April 1992 broke out, and they stated in a Street Thomas interview that they were worried for their loved ones. The Bernie dummy used in the film had been on display for the film's debut shortly before the riot's outbreak, and was robbed of its painter's hat and $400 sunglasses. Reception. Weekend at Bernie's 2 earned mostly negative reviews from critics, earning a 10% rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on 29 reviews. Box office. The movie had modest box office success. In popular culture, Weekend at Bernie's 2 is mentioned in the 8th-season episode of Seinfeld, The Comeback. The movie is featured in the Staff Picks shelf at a video rental store under Gene's Picks. Kramer recommends it to Elaine instead of a staff pick by Arthouse Goon. Vincent. Elaine rents it only to be disappointed and eventually yelling, "Bernie's dead, you idiots," at the television while watching it. Similarly, in an episode of NCIS, a character who needs to establish an alibi is too embarrassed to say which film he had been watching. The team assume he was watching a porn film, but he eventually admits it was Weekend at Bernie's 2, to which film geek agent Dinotso says. Even worse, the movie is referenced in the How I Met Your Mother episode, How Lily Stole Christmas, when Ted attempts to insult Lily for having a poor sense of humor. Remember that time we heard her laughing, and we thought she was watching Weekend at Bernie's, but it turned out she was watching Weekend at Bernie's 2. Quote, this movie is also referenced in the How I Met Your Mother episode, Weekend at Barney's. The Rick and Morty episode, Rick's Tea Minutes, features a trailer for Last Will and Test Meow. Weekend at Dead Cat Lady's House 2, seen on a television channel from an alternate dimension. The movie is also referenced in the episode History Bonus of Funhouse Show, Demo Disc. It was later referenced again in Weekend at Bernie Burns of the Funhouse Show, Open House. In 2016, filmmaker Jarrett Garn declared Weekend at Bernie's 2 as one of his ultimate guilty pleasures on the Fake Shemp Net podcast. Moven like Bernie, inspired by the movement of the movie's namesake, a style of dance was created called Moven like Bernie. Homemade movies went viral on the internet, from children to soldiers serving overseas. Even professional athletes began performing the dance, including Baltimore Ravens running back Ray Rice, after scoring a touchdown during a nationally televised January 2011 game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The 2012 Oakland Athletics have adapted Moven like Bernie into the celebration routines after Coco Crisp played the song for third baseman Brandon Inger in the team's clubhouse before a game. Players such as Josh Reddick will perform the dance after a home run, big hit, walk-off victory.